Okay, so I now make it 14:02 on my phone. So let's get started. So welcome everybody. Welcome to this webinar that BCFA have asked us to put on. So presenters today, it's the Ball and Hall show. You can see Phil and I are presenting. I'm Rob. I'm the older of the two, if you're looking at the two photographs there. That's me in the purpley coloured shirt, and Phil's with me on the line as well. You're there unmuted, Phil, aren't you? Just a quick say hello.
Yeah, just about. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody.
Excellent. So you've got the two of us today. So I'm going to do kind of most of the presentation, but Phil's going to kind of help out in terms of some of the questions and things as we go through. Plus, Phil will do a bit in the middle section as well, just to kind of break it up a little bit. So you've got two voices to listen to, not just mine. So hey, look. BCFA have asked us to do this webinar because we've been doing these on a similar vein for a number of different organizations, both kind of trade organizations like this and also people like British Franchise Association. We did one with FSB and that kind of thing, just because I think ActionCOACH work with lots and lots of different businesses. That's our normal business. We're a business coaching company. And what ActionCOACH do in terms of working directly with businesses is help them get real clarity of actions that are needed. And more so now than ever in this current situation, we're helping those business owners get real kind of clarity of what they can do to get through this current situation. So, hey, look, today's not a sales pitch about ActionCOACH. There's some kind of follow-up stuff we can do with you guys if you're interested, but that's not what it's about today. The key message today is around, what is your plan? We're pitching this as kind of plan, don't panic. We work with lots of business owners, kind of literally thousands across the UK. And the common theme of those that are surviving at the moment and even thriving, because some are, is that they have a clear plan. Now, they might be adapting that plan. They might be flexing the plan. It might be kind of ever evolving, but they have a plan. Research shows us that even in good times, only about 2% of businesses have an actual written plan that gets them through their day-to-day activity. Only 2%. It's a low figure, and attrition rates in the UK for businesses are too high anyway, even without this national, even about the global COVID pandemic. Attrition rates are high anyway. So we're talking today about helping you get some actions, get some thoughts down onto the pad. So please take notes. We're going to do it at pace. We've got all sorts of different businesses on the line. I know you're all kind of obviously connected with BCFA, but there'll be, a variety of types and sizes of businesses on the call today. And actually, we've been specifically asked by BCFA, because we work across so many sectors, pretty much all sectors, that this is a collection really of things that we've seen working over the past 2-3 weeks. So, so some might be more relevant to you than others. Some sections you'll be fine, very relevant, some perhaps less so, but that's okay. We'll go at pace. It's using general things, but it's actually your thinking is, how does this apply to my business, or how can I help this, take this idea and make it apply to my business? So as I say, take notes of actions. We're going to pause throughout to kind of make sure you can capture your actions, etc. There's a question box. Please do use the question box. We'll keep an eye on that between Phil and I. So we'll take questions as we go, and then we'll do a kind of, usual mop up of Q&A at the end. But, please fire questions in as and when you think of them, because they might come up sort of slide by slide. So we're using the slide deck to kind of keep us in check and in pace. I'm starting off with something, just a kind of bit of positioning, I suppose, something called the change curve. Now, you could Google this. This is not an ActionCOACH thing. You'll find this if you look it up. The study is done by Kubler-Ross. So if you Google Kubler-Ross with a K, or just Google the change curve, and you'll find images that look pretty similar to this. And it talks about, over a period of time, our kind of general morale and our focus goes through these changes. When a change is coming upon us. Now, whether that's a change that's brought about by organizational change, or something that's happened like now, where we've had a pretty traumatic event that's been forced upon us, we naturally go through these stages of change in terms of, the way our outlook is, our morale and our focus. And in this particular case, the focus for our business, it starts off with, we have that surprise or shock at the event itself, and then immediately into a bit of denial and disbelief, and look for evidence that it doesn't actually affect us, or evidence that it's not true. you'll recognize those kind of behaviors clearly. And then it kind of moves into sort of frustration and anger. And, as we sort of recognize that things are different, recognize that it's having a big impact on our businesses in this case, perhaps anger that it's having that impact, and that this is actually really is affecting us. That's the kind of natural next state to be in. It's natural to go into a bit of a depression stage. And I don't necessarily mean that in a clinical depression stage. It's more about, low mood, lack of energy, lack of focus, lack of action. And again, it's a natural human trait to kind of go through that process before we come out into an acceptance stage and realize that fighting the change, or in this case, fighting what's going on around us and lockdown, etc., is actually not going to make the issue go away. So it's how we learn to adapt, learn to plan, learn to kind of shift and pivot our businesses to the new situation, to come up into problem-solving mode where changes are integrated, businesses can adapt and hopefully thrive again. So I guess I start with that because it's a good way of positioning it, and I say to you, where are you on that curve? Most people on that curve can probably recognise, where they were either now or at some stage. I can certainly recognise being in denial when this first kicked off. I think most of us probably were, that it wasn't actually going to affect us, but clearly it has. But how quickly that timescale you move through that is an individual thing. But recognition of it is a good place to start. So, hey, look, let's get into a bit of detail here. So this is just a bit of a graphic, just to kind of, I'm not going to go through detail here on this slide because we don't have time today on this relatively short webinar. But it's just a positioning piece really to show that, these are the kind of the phases, and I've just put it in as 5 phases. It's pretty broad, I know that, but it's an illustrative thing really. We're kind of somewhere in that kind of lockdown phase 1, 2 state at the moment. But at some point, we're going to get to that sort of yellow star in sort of middle part of the screen there, where lockdown ends, or at least the end date is announced at the first point. So at some point we're going to get to that. And then at some point we're going to get to that red star where lockdown actually ends and things get back to relative normal. We'll cover what normal might look like as we go through the session. But I suppose the point of me putting this slide up is, you've got personal traits at the top there. What are you doing personally around your family, your own health and well-being, and how you're communicating with those around you, etc., as well as the business side. And the 3 key themes I really want everyone to take out from today is that cash management, customer retention, and planning. And Phil and I will expand on that as we go through. But those are the 3 key themes that we'll talk about today, amongst others. But those are perhaps the important ones. But I suppose my point of this slide is kind of, where are you and how prepared are you? Yeah, how prepared are you now? Do you know what you need to do to be more prepared, if you don't think you are very prepared? Because actually at some point we'll get to a sprint phase. One thing that the last financial crash taught us, the last recession, if you like, the financial crash of 2008, 2009, is that there will be sprinters. As we come out of this lockdown phase, there will be sprinters in business and there'll be plodders. And I suppose my question to you is, will you be sprinting with others around you, or will you be sat there thinking, my God, I better do something then? And I suppose our message today is, let's do that something now while we can. The other thing that the last recession clearly taught us was a death lag. I mentioned before about, there are too many businesses fail anyway, and there will be businesses fail out of this, sadly. There really will be. And it tends to be in a recessionary time that there's a lag. Yeah, it takes a while after things start to pick up before businesses suddenly find that they don't have the cash, et cetera, and there's a death lag, if you like, in business. So don't let that be you. So okay, let's get into some detail. So we've entitled this 11 steps. So the 11 steps are, which I'll go through now, are how we're really getting business owners to get that clarity on actions. Now, the outcome of this, not just this webinar, because this is a short webinar, guys, this is just an introduction to stuff, and you'll all be at different stages in your business, those of you that are listening today, I get that. But the outcome, the afters, if you like, is to get you to a point where there's less stress and worry, and you have options. Give a plan gives you options, and options give you confidence. That URL there will come back up at the end of the presentation. But that's just an offer. It's, it's no gimmicks. It's not a sales pitch or something. It's just a genuine offer for Action Coach to help business owners, as many business owners as we can through this period. And that's a little sign up sheet there. I'll replay the URL at the end of the session. But if you want to take a photograph of it now or at some point, at the end, then please do. I'll come back to it. Okay, so 11 steps. So first steps. I will just open the slide up. So I think the first step is positive communication. So without a doubt, what we're seeing is companies that are still doing okay or thriving and surviving through this at the moment have that strong positive communication. You cannot over communicate in a crisis. That stands anyway. You cannot over communicate in a crisis. So my question to you is, when did you last communicate with your customers? Yeah, when did you last communicate with your team? Are you having daily communication with your team, for example? As our team, we're doing a morning and an evening huddle each day just to check in. What's happened today? What are your key goals in the morning? Did you achieve your goals when we tap in at the end of the day? That kind of thing. But it's making you feel kind of part of that team still. But certainly, what are you doing with your customers? Are you talking to your customers on a regular basis? Are you communicating with them? However that looks like for you. We'll talk a bit more about impact communicating with existing customers in a minute as we go through as one of the key 3 things to be keeping doing. But having some vision, having some goals that you can articulate to the people around you, whether that's customers, whether that's suppliers, whether that's team, whether that's partners that you collaborate with, being strong. Because one thing we do know is this will end. So preparing to come out stronger is vital. So what's your, kind of inverted commas, we are getting through this message that you're putting out there? Is there a consistent message that's being given out by all of your team members to customers and suppliers, et cetera, et cetera? Think about your team members, because people need something to grab hold of. In times of worry, in times of crisis, we do worry. And when we worry, communication is naturally negative. And your role as business leaders is to kind of maintain that passion and enthusiasm and cut through that negativity. So I suppose my challenge to you, my first point is, what's your communication look like? Is it positive? Even if you're not feeling positive necessarily down inside, how are you lifting up to those around you and the message you're giving out to your customers, to your team, as suppliers, as I keep saying, et cetera, and how's that consistency of your message out there? At the end of the day, people will kind of remember who was there for them and who cared, won't they, when this is over? So, how are you articulating messages to your customers? That kind of thing. Just be clear on that. So I'm just pausing for you to kind of just make sure you've written something down there, guys. Write something down, some action, some point, some thought, whatever's in your head at the moment about your communication. You cannot over communicate. So what's your communication plan to your customer base? Yeah, existing customers that you've had and not spoken to for some time. What's your communication plan? We'll come back to a little bit of that in a minute, but you cannot over communicate. Tenfold your communication. So what's your plan? What's your goal around step 1? A quick tip, actually, a bit of reference point for you. Check out a guy called Andy Bounds, Bounds, Andy Bounds. Just Google him. He's got some good stuff online around communication. He's a fantastic communication expert and really helps you think through, kind of positive communication methods to put out there to your clients and amongst your team, et cetera, et cetera. So check out Andy Bounds. He's a good guy. Okay, so that's positive communication. Step 2, change your business model. Yeah, okay, sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it? When some guy on a webinar says change your business model. But I suppose what we're seeing is, business is going to change, isn't it? This is the new normal. I think we kind of hear that phrase a lot now, don't we? The new normal, as we're all sat doing webinars and stuff at home. Whatever marketing and sort of messages you had as your business model, things are going to change. That's inevitable. And I talked through the change curve just now, but there will be a change. So think about the things you can pivot on. I put times 100 there, but what I mean by that is, good businesses make lots of small little changes. That's normal in great businesses. Great businesses evolve and become better and better and better because they make those continuous small changes. that kind of continuous improvement, or marginal gains, as the phrase that's used in sport, isn't it? So what are your marginal gains? How is this an opportunity that, businesses out there are thriving? There are markets that are thriving at the moment. So how can you get into a market perhaps that is thriving? People are pivoting in terms of, types of things they're doing in their business. I work with a coach company in the Northeast, and there's no coach travel going on at the moment. So, they've not shut down the business. They've taken a couple of the coaches, taken all of the seats out of the coaches, and those coaches are now being used for some bulk transport. They're finding a contract for doing some bulk deliveries. It's a small example, but, how does that help? What is it that you can do? Sit and do a brainstorm. Sit down and write on a piece of paper with a partner, your team, your wife, husband, whoever, and just write down on a piece of paper and think, right, if we were going to really screw this business up over the next couple of months, if we were going to really screw the business up over the next couple of months, what would we do? And you'd write things down, wouldn't you? Well, we wouldn't communicate with our customers, or we wouldn't post on LinkedIn, or we'd sit here doing nothing, whatever. But it's a great kind of negative brainstorm, is a really good way of thinking, yeah, okay, so we're not going to do that then, are we? Yeah, we're actually going to go out and do something positive here, and we're going to make some small changes in the business. And put yes, if in front of everything you've done in that brainstorm. So not your natural human emotion is no, because, no, I can't do that because I don't have any contacts in that market. Well, if you change that on your brainstorm to yes, if, well, yes, if we made some contacts in that market, perhaps we could do it. So how do I make some contacts in that market? I don't know, I'm going to make 10 phone calls tomorrow of people I've never spoken to in that market before, or 10 new LinkedIn connections, or whatever it might be. But you start to create the positive actions that have come out of that brainstorm. It might be educational, for example. In the market that you guys are in, there's quite a lot of educational stuff going on at the moment. Maybe you can't monetize it at the moment, but it still kind of keeps your brand out there, keeps your keeps your name, and keeps some activity going within the business. There's lots of online education going on. Online education is one of the fastest growing markets at the moment. Craft and home hobbies and all that kind of thing is massively growing at the moment. So can you adapt into something like that, for example? Actually, there's an interesting another thing for you to jot down on your pad. Stackline Limited, Stackline, stackline.com. Apologies, stackline.com. It's an American site, and the stats are American, but it doesn't matter. It's still relevant here in the UK. It shows you the top 100 growing markets, and also the bottom 100 decreasing markets. And it's really interesting, because when you look through that top 100 markets that are growing at this time, it starts to make you think, well, if that market's growing, how can I adapt into that market? Can I supply into that market somehow? Yeah, can I do something that helps me pivot into that market? So that's my second point. Step 2, can you change your business models? It's small pivots, think outside the box. This is where working with, like a coach like myself or Phil can really help, because it just kind of helps you kind of prompt the question. So why can't you do that? Or how can you do that? Or when can you do that? And it starts you just thinking a little bit differently. So that's my step 2. Jot something down on your pad, guys. What's your action? What's your thought under step 2? Change your business model. I'm just pausing as well, just to check the question box. Please do fire in questions as we go. That's absolutely fine. So step 3, virtual is the new normal. And again, I think, we know this, don't we? We're all, sat virtually working at the moment. Some of you might still have some premises that you're able to still use. If you can use those safely, then, great, good luck, sort of thing. But the vast majority of the country are sitting at home. So, making sure that the technology at home is good. I'm going to skip over this step quite quickly, but it's important, isn't it, to make sure that the virtual nature of business is strong, because it will become the new normal. I'm sure more meetings will be done virtually now than they were previously. I'm sure that's going to happen. The human management, managing team, etc. Things like social distancing is probably going to last for a while, isn't it? And it will feel weird, won't it, to go back into crowds of people now. So think about how your virtual team is set up. Are they set up well? Are you making good allowances for people? Is there empathy, etc., to how people are working at home for that feeling alone point? That, helping people with that. And have you got a good reporting and planning structure for virtual planning and virtual meetings and virtual reporting of what your sales team are doing, for example, or your production team are doing? Can they systemize that really well so that virtually it is working well for you? There's an office fit out company that we're doing some work with at the moment, and actually they're finding that some office fit out stuff is still going ahead, but not to the level it was previously. But they've come up with some really good sort of home pod offers. Home, so you kind of a home office in a pod kind of thing, in a box. They've come up with really good, and that's selling really well for them at the moment. Just a desk, chair, etc., a home office fit out at home, and I think that's going to become more and more natural even after this this situation changes. Okay, capture actions, and virtue is the new normal. I'm just pausing again on questions here. Okay, we've got a kind of couple in. I know that Phil is just picking up as we go through. That's great. Thank you, Phil. So, right. Okay. Step 4. And I guess this is the first of the kind of 3 biggies, really. Cash flow management. Yeah. I mean, I say this anyway, even in good times, that having a cash flow forecast is a necessity. But at the moment, it is absolutely vital, guys. Having a strong cash flow forecast is absolutely vital. You've all heard that phrase, turnover is vanity, profit sanity, but cash is king. So what does the cash look like? You'll have a forward order book. What does your forward order book look like? If it's not 80, maybe 90% certain, then, don't put it in your cash flow at the moment. Working with a hotel, a wedding venue, they're a wedding venue. They've done a cash flow forecast, 6-month cash flow forecast based on what they called an apocalyptic view. So in other words, 0 income for the next 6 months. But the point was, in doing it, it helped them think through, okay, so we've got no income coming in for 6 months. Actually, they have got some income from some side products, but they planned on a 0 income and realized that they can get through 6 months by looking at what they can cut, looking at what they can credit, they can extend, what costs they can renegotiate, suppliers they can talk to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they know that they can survive for a 6-month period. So that's a wedding, specific wedding venue that we work with. And so the cash flow has done really, really well in that. Now, actually, it's not quite as bad as they've planned out, but hey, having that facts in front of them and being able to make some proper subjective, proper objective decisions, I should say, rather than just based on subjective, based on emotion. Because making decisions based purely on emotion is not a great basis for decision making. And in times like this, it's quite easy to make emotional decisions when we should be making good, strong, fact-based decisions. Take advantage of the government programs. Hey, look, if you guys need some help in how to do a cash flow, because sometimes it's easy for, say some guy sat on a webinar, say doing a cash flow, but if you need some help in doing it, look, we can help you with that. We've got some good cash flow structures that we can help you put this kind of stuff together. Please do shout and we can help you with this. So that's cash flow. So as I say, the big 3, really, that's the first of the big 3, your cash flow management, making sure that's strong. Really have a good hard look at your cash flow management. Okay, where are we? Step 5. And Phil, I think you're going to take over here, aren't you, for a bit?
Yeah, good. You can hear me, Rob, okay?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers, Rob. Thanks very much. Yeah, guys, as Rob's kind of, set it up very nicely. We talk about marketing. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of do's and don'ts that we're reading at the moment on LinkedIn and feedback. So we're just going over as a bit of an overview, I guess, of what we're seeing as being the highlights. But your marketing plan in January, February, March this year has just taken a massive stumble and needs to change, needs to shift. So a big thing that I've got down here is make sure it follows your business model. So you do that business modeling, you do that adjustment of where you're going. I know we've got people that supply the healthcare industry, people that supply hospitality on the call today. We've got buyers, we've got CEOs all listening into this, which is great. So just quickly on that, I mean, we work with a company in Essex that are a furniture business, and they supply fit outs for hospitality industry, and they're finding that they've gone out to those new businesses and they're actually keen to get things fitted whilst they don't have the footfall inside those businesses. So that's a hospitality industry where we might think, oh, it's completely fallen away, but they are still making those improvements. They're still making those adjustments. So that's a shift, completely in a different direction, which is great. The healthcare industry, goes without saying, 160 contractors were involved in the Nightingale Hospital. 4,000 beds are going in there, 80 wards, 16,000 staff needing to be kitted out with the scrubs for the NHS, which is all the material. So, does marketing have to shift? Absolutely. Are we making sure that we're following the compassion line? 100%. What are some of the businesses that have been first to the line there? We've been watching a bit more television recently, and I've seen the Kevin Bacon on the EE advert. It's probably one of the first ones to come out and do this. And obviously he's normally cracking his jokes, but he's sitting there and he's obviously making a shout out. Now, whether we like it or whether we don't like it, it's out there. It's marketing. It's getting the EE brand out there. He's linking it in with the NHS. They're doing a specific deal right now where NHS workers get free data. So that he's added that urgency piece there as well. And are we doing more marketing than we ever have done? Yeah, we're finding things that work and we're getting out there. We're sending the messages out there and being really, really clear. But, one thing that we always say, there's two key things here with marketing. Know your numbers, know your numbers more than ever before. Marketing is maths. It is about getting your leads, your prospects, measuring them, how many of you've got, and then converting off the back end of that. Three top tips I've got for conversion is your written guarantees. Whatever your written guarantees were before, they've been adjusted for the CV19. Whatever the added value offers were before that you provided as a company to your potential customers and existing customers have been adjusted for CV19, and your sales scripts have been adjusted. So your sales teams are making sure that they're aware of the changes and the adaptations that you're making. So the overarching piece is definitely, and it is the businesses that are the quickest to the mark here. Whatever you do not wait. But that leads us, nicely in there, Rob. I don't know if you've got anything to add on the back end of that, or we can move straight on to sales.
Keep going. I think just to emphasize the message that the businesses that we are seeing still doing well or surviving / even thriving are those that are marketing hard. Tenfold marketing. That it's not marketing that you cut when you're looking to cut cost. Keep going.
So I mean, so we talk about that sales piece, specifically that sales piece, and we, a lot of us here, we have big long-term supplier agreements. We're, perhaps adjusting them. We're staying in touch with those existing customers that we talk about in a second. But Gary Vaynerchuk puts it very well in terms of, making sure we provide value, making sure that you as a business are providing value first. Because there is so much, what I call internet of noise out there right now. It's hard for people to navigate through. So you're making sure that your sales message, it stays there, but the tone is adjusted. You're adjusting and adapting to the people that you're speaking to. It could be, managers, could be CEOs, could be directors, could even be strategic partnerships. I've been since linking in with you guys at the BCFA. I've been looking at the website. There's some fantastic businesses on there that are doing some really cool stuff right now. Businesses that are supplying the NHS, that are doing things that perhaps they wouldn't normally do. These are great for you guys to start strategically aligning with. We as a company at ActionCOACH, we work with funders, we work with the national banks. We build these strategic partnerships to add strength to our offering, to add strength to our value piece for our customers. So the question here is, what are you doing what is being created to really help and add value to your existing customers. And you know, some of the challenges sometimes is, well, should we be selling, you know, in a time like this when people are thinking about their families? And the message is, well, if we don't keep the business going for ourselves. You know, so that's a question in itself, which obviously, you know, each individual needs to answer for themselves. But we're certainly making sure that we're adjusting, you know, our sales plans, our sales patterns, our sales pipelines. They've all been adjusted. They're all getting digitalized. They're all getting that added value piece, which should have been there before, guys. Let's make no bones. You know, a lot of these things that we're talking about now had need to be there before, but this situation, this economic situation that we've got, is just making us push us into a little bit more action. So yeah, the sales, the ending piece on the sales is making sure you start to target those industries, or you start to talk to those people that need your help. You know, and my last piece is, are you solving their issues? You know, those managers in those hospitality sections, those contractors that are sorting out those hospital beds, are you going to them, solving their issues, solving their problems that they might have right now? That's going to get you that conversation piece working. So that's the sales, that's the outbound piece. And again, it's very top line. I would definitely urge people on the call, and I know we're going to send out some extra bits of information, and perhaps there could be some follow-up pieces of more webinars. But we have something called 5 ways in ActionCOACH, and I urge people that you can stick it into Google, or you can stick it onto YouTube. There's some really good nuggets of gold in there. So that's just 5 ways into there. So on to repeat business and existing customers. Step 7, as we're whistling through. Step 7, your existing customer base. There's a few things that you could be thinking right now, and that is, I'm waiting. You're in that denial phase where you're thinking, I'm not going to reach out to them. I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait. We've got to make sure that we're not waiting for them to send that message. That message might be, oh, we're going to halve our order, or we might be, you know, not ordering this month, or we need to adjust this. Don't wait for that message. You know, we've got to head that fear head on. We've got to face that. And my one line here that I've written is, are you booking in your Zoom catch up, upbeat and personal? Are you sending out a message to all your existing customers? I want a Zoom call. I want to ask about you. I want to ask about how it's going. I want to see how I can help you. That goes out to every single customer on your database. First and foremost, Rob mentions cash flow, and that your cash flow is going to be built off this existing customer base that you have. Do not wait for them to contact you. Do not wait for that order to come through on email or on phone call. You're going out there and you're just gently reminding them, hey, we're open for business. We're working hard to get our staff back into our factories, to get our deliveries out there to customers. How's it all going for you? So, just going above and beyond, and utilizing, obviously, most businesses now are well versed in Zoom and catch up. Go to them, be the leader, and give them the solutions. And at this time, obviously, when we talked about communication right at the beginning, it builds that loyalty. As Rob mentioned, if you're that company that send a helping arm out to support that business, whether it's local or whether it's a big national organization that you're working with, they'll remember that. They'll remember that when in 5, 6, 7 months time, when we get back onto the runway to take off again, who was there when they're building that strategy? Right, we need to get, you know, this in, we need to get that in, we need to be ordering this and this. You know, which business are they going to be thinking of? And it will be you guys if you act on that. So yeah, we mentioned there the critical non-essentials, and this is where the profit is. You know, again, any questions on that, guys? Just keep firing them in. But yeah, adjusting, and making sure you planned, and that's me, Rob. On
yeah. Nice one, Phil. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Critical non-essentials, guys. Just so you're clear on what that means, which is just bit of a jargon phrase we use, but it means effectively it's like sending someone a bunch of flowers, a customer a bunch of flowers on the birthday kind of thing. It's not essential for the relationship, but it's critical if you're really looking to build a stronger and stronger relationship. So use that as a simple example, but in today's language, that might be, as Phil said, going that extra mile, making that extra phone call, this is the time to build the raving fans amongst your existing customers. I just literally last night, I worked with a commercial cleaning company, chatting to them last night, and they've reached out to customers that they've not spoken to for a long time, previous customers that they've not had a lot of contact with, but they've made a real effort to go back to all of their old customer base, just in a nice, soft, compassionate kind of message, anything we can do to help. And they've picked up some, extra sort of deep clean business and some deep clean carpet cleans, etc., through some letting agents and things like that into some empty properties, because people are a bit nervous. They think, this is a great time to get the property really, really clean. And that just came from just going back to existing customers or previous customers. So go back to your old customer base and make some contact. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep the pace going. So, right, step 8, getting the most from your people. So look, I know different businesses on the call at the moment. Some of you have teams, some maybe not. If you don't have anyone that you're directly employing, then people can be the people around you, your partners that you work with, those strategic alliances, or the people you network with. Think of it like that. But I suppose what we're trying to say here is, look, mindset of people could be fear. Mindset of people that you're working with or work with you or for you could be fearful. They could be fearful, is their job going to still exist? Or they could just be fearful from a health perspective. So it's about you setting standards and being a visible leader. And I'm a real big believer in leaders being seen, being actually visible. So not just the phone call. Short, regular phone calls are great, of course they are, but actually let them see you by doing a video team call and a video one-to-one calls, whether it's Zoom like we're using today, or FaceTime, Google Meets, etc. There's different formats out there, but do something, be seen amongst your team, because people need you. People need that leadership in times like this. That's really, really strong, really strong message. For me to give you there. I've put a URL on the screen there if you just want to take a snap of it, and we'll share it again afterwards. But this is just literally hot off the press. We do a lot of work with a business called Engagement Multiplier. How absolutely fantastic. Those of you that have got teams and employ people, I'm hoping anyway that as a team thing, you do employee engagement surveys. It's a great practice anyway to make sure your team are engaged and building loyalty amongst your team, etc. This is a time, a bit like we said with the existing customers, it's a time to really be pushing that with your teams as well. And we're mindful that employee engagement might slip a bit in times like this, in terms of our own business focus with our own teams. Engagement Multiplier have put together a working from home survey. It's a free survey. It's no gimmicks. It's not a sales thing. It's not, there's no kind of sign up thing or free trial thing. It's genuinely a survey your people at home to kind of help them, with their own kind of well-being at home and that kind of thing. So if you want to just sort of take a picture of the screen or something and just use that URL, type that URL in, we'll share it again later as well. It's really, really good. They're using that all over the world, and it's becoming it's become very popular. And there might be a bit about kind of training and retraining if you have had to furlough people. And of course, people can be training while they're furloughed. But I suppose the message is keep people on board as much as you can. You've taken time and money and effort to bring in people into the team. So, how do you best utilize them? Do you have to shift people from a cost center into a profit center? There's been lots of business shift, how they're moving people's roles so that they're more customer facing, whereas they were previously in a kind of back office role. They're given a much more front facing roles to be customer facing, customer contact, etc. Is there something like that you can do in your business? As I say, is this an opportunity if people are, maybe some of your team have got a little bit more time on their hands, because whether they're furloughed or just perhaps being able to physically do less because they're working from home, is this an opportunity to get them retrained and up the training and self-development? Are there self-development programs in place for those people? Then you can train whilst on furlough, so you can set them some training programs. There's some great free resource out there, isn't there? It's just internet search, etc. Just for some self-development, even if it's not your industry specific, it's still great, and it keeps people involved. And people can be involved in the business planning side of things too. So back to the fear point, there's nothing wrong with getting people still involved in, ideas for the business. I talked about the brainstorm session earlier. You still get people can be involved in those kind of activities still. So that's step 8. Step 8. Step 9 is building a strong mindset. So, hey, look, again, and I've said this a couple of times already on the call, haven't I? It's easy for me to sit here and say, hey, build a strong mindset. And there's loads, those of you that are on LinkedIn and social media generally, you'll see lots of stuff around, how you build your kind of resilience and daily routines and all this kind of thing whilst we're confined at home. So, it's an important thing to do. It's easy for me to sit here and say, do it. But we all know for a fact that actually successful people, whether that's successful people in business, whether that's successful, whether that's sports people, people in the media, actors, etc., one thing they'll have in common is they'll have a strong self-belief and they'll have a strong self-talk. As we've said on the slide there, the voice inside them is saying the right positive things to them. Yeah. So think about what do people say about you that's good about you? What do you know about yourself that you're strong on? And build your own affirmations around that. Tell yourself every day, write them down in your back of your notebook and read them out to yourself out loud every day. I am good at this. I am great at that. I am strong at doing this, or I am getting better at doing this, or I am learning about this, whatever it might be. That stuff really works. That self-talk, those daily affirmations really, really work. Think about what a good day looks like at the start of each day. Visualize what a good day looks like. Write a to achieve list at the end of each day for the following day. So what am I going to achieve? So not just a to-do list, separately, a to achieve list. And it might only have one thing on it. You might have one thing that you're going to find that small win in that day. But tomorrow I'm going to achieve X, or I'm going to achieve 1, 2, 3, whatever it might be. And tick off those achievements and celebrate those achievements. Because again, you will feel better at doing that rather than just a long to-do list. It's an opportunity, isn't it? It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to learn. Those of you that have got, it's funny, isn't it? I talk to so many people in this job, Phil and I speak to some people that are busier than they've ever been. I talk to other people that are scrabbling around, not quite sure what to do, and kind of everything in between. But I think the common thing is taking some time out to, look after yourself, look after your mindset, look after your learning and growing and finding new things to talk about, to learn about. We've kind of done a couple of shout outs today of some recommended reading, and we can supply a list in at the end of some other really good recommended reading that'll help you with this, not just mindset stuff, but just business skills generally. The more you, we have a phrase, the more you learn, the more you earn, or you can't earn before you learn, whichever way you look at it. So build a strong mindset is step 9. What are your thoughts? Jot something down. Sometimes no news is good news. I didn't say that. I left that off the bottom of the slide there. That's, just sometimes it's good to look at the news. It's good to kind of like be up to date, what's going on in the world. That's important, isn't it, that we do that? I certainly check out BBC News a couple of times a day, so you're up to date. But sometimes not looking at it, or not looking at it too much because it's all doom and gloom and negative. Sometimes that can be the, better for our own mindset if we're kind of focused more on the positives. Okay, so how are we doing? We're on step 10. So I guess this is the big thing. This is the third big one, really. The 3 big key takeaways I want you to have today out of this is a strong cash flow, really strong cash flow management, and a good forward look at your cash flow. The second one is how you're managing with your existing customer base, or those customers that you've worked with previously. And the third one is have a plan. Yeah, have a plan. I said 90 days because 90 days feels about right, doesn't it? In the next 3 months, we work on a kind of 90-day, 3-month planning cycle anyway within ActionCOACH. That's what we do with all our clients, because it's a long enough period to make a difference in the business, but short enough that you can kind of, get stuff done and create short-term actions. We're good at, as humans, as creating short-term actions and kind of overestimating what we're going to do in the short term. We can achieve a lot in the short term, underestimating in the short term, I should say. It's so it's a 90-day game. That kind of feels about right for the moment. So think about what your plan is. You know, we've talked a lot today. We've rattled through loads of stuff. I'm hoping you've taken notes. You've jotted stuff down. You've jotted thoughts down. Turn them into actions. Yeah, think about how you're going to market and sell. Thinking about what you're going to deliver, what you're going to charge, what you're going to change, what you're going to survive on first, what you're going to thrive on secondly. Yeah, how do you turn those into actions? What's the actual next step? What are you actually going to do? When are you actually going to do it? Who's going to do it? How are you going to measure that it's done? You know, measure the success of it. And it could be simple things like, you know, X number of LinkedIn posts or X number of new contacts or contact all my customers every month or whatever it might be. It could be very simple actions, but they're strong, positive actions. And actions give you options and options give you confidence. So make sure you've got a strong plan, and the plan will adapt, the plan will change. And hey, I put work with a coach on the slide. Of course I have, because I'm a coach. But you know, genuinely guys, this is how coaching comes into its own. It really helps business owners think these things through and challenges you to think about how are you going to do it? How are you going to achieve it? When are you going to do it? How are you going to measure it? Those kind of things. So step 10, make sure you've got a plan. And again, we've got some planning templates. You know, if you guys want to work with us, we can help you with this stuff. Because what's going to happen is at some point, we're going to get to the point where we can really look ahead. So, you know, we should be looking ahead now. Of course we should. But what I mean is by that is we're going to get to a point where, you know, things will change. Things will, you know, something's we're going to get back to some semblance of normality. So the final step here is, how are you looking ahead? You know, at the end of the day, your business is just an idea, isn't it? Backed by your confidence. So what is your confidence in your business at the moment? What is your own self-confidence in what the actions you're taking and the things that you're doing in your business? So how, you know, are customers seeing your confidence? Are your team members seeing your confidence? And if you're not confident, the slide says, if you're not confident, you know, that you can help, then why should they be? Yeah, why should your customers be confident? Why should your team be confident? Why should your suppliers be confident in you if you're not able to kind of articulate that in some confident way? So think about that. And again, I know it's easy for a guy on the end of a phone just to say, "Hey, be confident," but you know, confidence comes from within, and confidence comes from, you know, taking action and creating those options and opportunities. But act now. Do something. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end. Next couple of minutes or so, we'll finish. So please do put your questions in. Any questions? You know, no questions. No questions are silly questions. So, if we had any questions in there, Phil?
Not at the minute, Rob. But I just thought, you know, whilst and it was a piece back to Nadia and I's conversation before we got this one started. We'd be keen to find out what people's challenges are right now. You know, with the BCFA are thinking about doing more of these and doing more education pieces for the members. You know, we could get people just to jot down kind of what their challenges are, what they want to hear about.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Yeah, so if you can do that in the Q&A box, just jot down, you know, one word, one-liners, whatever it is, just, you know, note hand form. We'll take that back into BCFA and you know, let them know as well the key challenges you're facing. Because at some point we're going to see that. At some point we're going to see that. Breaking news: UK lists lockdown measures. No, okay, we've made that slide up. It's not real, but at some point it's going to become real. And I suppose the message is, what is it that you've done in this period that gets you to a point of sprinting, as I said earlier, as we come out of this. So look, put those thoughts down. Think about what it is that's you know, your current challenges are. You know, so I can see some questions coming in here, some points coming in. Andrew's put in there ways to move the team forward in these uncertain days. You know, it's a big one. I get that, Andrew. It's really hard in terms of moving team forward, but that inclusivity, is that a word? But, you know, being inclusive, keeping people 100% included. You know, let them know what's going on, because they'll be fearful of what's happening at the moment. Keep them engaged with training, etc., etc. We can talk some specifics. There's a really good book actually called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Google that book. It's a good book for team management stuff. But we can talk about that offline, Andrew, if you want to. It can help you a bit about that. Customers and clients are furloughed. So, can I keep in touch with them at the present? So cannot keep in touch with them at the present time. It's, again, I get it. When people are furloughed from other organizations, I get it. That's a tough one. But think about how, are there members of that team that are not furloughed that you can keep in touch with? Don't let someone else's issues be your issues, if you see what I mean. If you can't be in touch with those clients, are there other clients that you can be in touch with, other customers that you can be in touch with? Because people will be in touch with your customers, won't they? As we come out of this, people will come out of people will come out of this talking to your customers. If you're not doing it, someone else will. Harvey's picked me up on a point, which is a great point, Harvey. I said about being furloughed workers being involved in planning and not considered revenue generating, which is absolutely right. HMRC are very clear on this, and will be auditing businesses to make sure that furloughed staff are not in revenue generating activities. You're absolutely right. So you have to be very, very careful about that. You are allowed to have staff involved in training, and self-development, and some of that self-development can be their ideas as to how they are going to contribute to the business. But I'm not suggesting you sit down and do a kind of team planning day or something, which would be considered income generating. So you're absolutely right, Harvey. Be clear on that. And I don't profess to be the expert by any stretch. So be clear on what it is you can do. Thank you. So there's a few questions coming there. That's great. Keep them coming in, because we will capture them and we'll pass them into the central team. So hey, look, to finish up, I've repeated the URL at the bottom of the screen there. As I say, we'll share it afterwards, but take a photograph of it as well, punch it into the into your browser, and it will just bring up a simple landing page where we just capture information, simple contact information. Genuinely, guys, it's not a gimmick, it's not a sales pitch. It's our message at the moment to the market is, we want to help as many business owners as we can. Our normal trade, our normal market is working with business owners to help them make more money, to gain more time, to get better teams, etc. So we're using that skill set that we built up over years and years of working with literally thousands of businesses around the world to do some free stuff, some pro bono work. If that leads into a longer relationship, then great, but I promise you that's not what it's about. It's about how can we help you in the short term. So, take advantage of it. If you want a conversation directly with either Phil or I, you can email us directly as well. I'm just Rob Hall at ActionCOACH.com, and Phil is Phil Ball at ActionCOACH.co.uk. So just don't get confused. I'm a .com. Phil's a .co.uk. Don't ask. There's a reason behind that. And the website is .co.uk. But take action. List the 5, as the slide says, take the 5 ideas that you need to take action on. Hopefully Phil and I have prompted some ideas. This is about just to kind of make your thought process work a little bit. Write out your actions that we've taken over the last hour, or if it's just thoughts, turn them into an action. Put time scale next to each one. When you're going to do it, who's going to do it? Is it you? Is it your team, etc.? Put some urgency against it, because urgency creates the action, and actions give you the options. How will you ensure your business comes out of this stronger? I'd ask you how you're feeling right now. People are looking at you as the leaders of the business, so be visible, communicate strong, communicate with clarity and confidence. And I guess, as we're coming up to the end, I suppose my kind of key messages to everybody is, look after yourselves, stay safe. Thank you all for your participation and your involvement today. Hopefully we've pricked a bit of interest and sparked a few ideas. That's what it's all about. So thank you for your time, and good luck, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you.